All right, Julie Janae at the courthouse. Now, this is felony murder is what the charges are against these guys. And people do get released on bond for felony murder in the state of Georgia. They do. I mean, we've seen it. We've got a case, the Rashard Brooks case, the burning of the Wendy's. Those officers are out on bond. There was another case a few years ago that you may have seen. Tex MacGyver shot and killed his wife. It was felony murder. And he was out on bond as well. So it does happen. Didn't happen in this case. Was that the right call? Or is it the pressure of the case? Is it the pressure of the community? What's going on here? Let's figure it out. We'll bring in our think tank. Got a great one tonight. Joining us tonight in Long Beach, California, civil rights attorney Joseph Lowe is back with us. In Austin, Texas, trial attorney Holly Davis. And in New York, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona, who now works with our good friend Joey Jackson. Great to see you all. Had to give a shout out to Joey. Everybody loves him. Everybody does. All right. Significant danger to the community. Okay, that's one of the prongs in Georgia, right? One of the issues that you can look at. Not just danger to the community, but significant danger to the community. We've got two ladies, so I'm going to go to Joseph Lowe first. Joseph, do you see these two men as a significant danger to the community if they had been released?
Well, I guess that depends on which side of the street you're standing on when you're asked that question. Well, let's call it what it is. You got two rednecks who think that maybe someone might have committed a crime that is no worse than maybe he stole some property out of a home that hasn't been built yet. And now the only resolution that these two knuckleheads can come up with is they got to go kill and shoot the guy. Come on, man. This is why you're supposed to call the cops first, because they know how to handle those situations. They know how to escalate or de-escalate, and they make sure that people don't get killed, or supposed to anyway, for doing things like this. When you're gonna make the decision to take the law in your own hands, God help you if you can't figure out how to do it right. So clearly these two are a danger to the community, because you could just be jogging down the street and now you're dead. So it's a pretty good reason why they decided you're not going out in public.
Holly, do you see these two defendants any different than any other defendants? Let's take, for instance, two examples I gave. A man shoots and kills his wife. He gets bond. A police officer accused in the Wendy's shooting here. He gets bond. These guys don't get bond. So I'm trying to do a little comparison, some point of reference here. What makes these guys worse than the man who shoots his wife or a police officer accused of felony murder?
It's what they did, Vinny. You and I spoke weeks ago about Rashard Brooks, and I think the difference in that case was that was an active duty police officer who was in the course of arresting a gentleman as part of his job. He made a couple of missteps, and I spoke about that a couple weeks ago. But he's out on bond right now. The McMichaels, they took the law into their own hands. They're not military. They're not police. They're retired. And I'll say that Greg McMichaels was relieved of his ability to arrest people because he had failed to do any, force training. And that's pretty obvious. He's sitting there in the back of the truck doing nothing except for watching a man get murdered by his son's hands. And so I think this is actually, the crime is a definition of a danger to community. And it's the Black community that it's a danger to. If we look at the evidence that was introduced over the course of this two-day hearing, we see so many examples of these racist text messages and Facebook profiles. And I'm so fascinated by this character witness evidence that was introduced by the defense attorneys in this two-day hearing. It seemed to me to actually make a worse case for the defendant at times. And so I questioned some of the strategy used by the defense attorneys in eliciting this character evidence, because we see that they introduced a witness who was friends with Travis McMichael, and it actually exchanged racist text messages with him. And that rehabilitation was a nightmare for the defense. So yeah, these guys should stay in jail because they got to be free for a couple months when no one prosecuted them. So I think this case is much different than a police officer killing a man, shooting him in the back during the course of an active arrest. And I think it's because these people took the law into their own hands when they weren't law enforcement. And they were very clearly targeting a Black community, a Black person, and they were not, they had no right to do so.
Bernarda, the other accusation that was made by the prosecutor today is that these guys were attempting to, especially Greg McMichael, was attempting to obstruct justice. But they haven't charged him with obstruction. Why would you accuse him but not charge him with obstruction?
Well, Vinny, you know that the thing is with this bond hearing that is different from a trial is that at the bond hearing, as you can see during these 2 days, that a lot of evidence that would not come in at trial was able to come in during this bond hearing. I'm sure that the reason why the prosecution did not charge these two individuals, father and son duo, with obstruction of justice is that they wouldn't have been able to prove that charge beyond a reasonable doubt. However, they were able to show enough proof at the bond hearing that they were attempting to obstruct with justice. Vinny, let's not forget that it took at least 3 different prosecutors to finally be able to charge this father and son duo as well as the friend body. So you got to think that because this father and son duo used their privilege, their white privilege, their certainty within having worked in that community and in that district attorney's office to try to maneuver the criminal justice system and their prosecution is why they were able to be out in the street so long.
So what I'm taking away from you three is, do you agree with the judge's decision today?
Yeah.
I do, Vinny.
No, it's very obvious. It's very obvious. I'm stating the obvious.
One other reason.
Go ahead.
One other reason. That judge should be given more credit. He's also thinking about, if you let those two out, could there be more violence, racial tension, whites versus blacks, rednecks? Look, that's pretty smart, because even if you're not really that worried about the two, you need to be worried about the entire community being inflamed. That's a really smart decision by the judge. He cares more about the people than he does just about what the defense is saying.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the next big trial here on Court